Ba weep grana weep nini bong, fellow organisms. Even organics. Let's not get speciesist or anything. It's your boy, Papatron, the concerned alien parent. And today I'm going to continue our talk from the previous video about significant characters and concepts in the Transformers franchise. Except in this video, I'll be brushing up on the lesser known characters that, in my opinion, helped open up some doors. One time, I tried to make a complete list of Transformers characters in the entire franchise, all of them minus slightly different versions of the characters. So I ended up with a list of 1,000 different characters. Let me repeat that. 1,000 different characters. 1,000 different characters. I wasn't even counting at first. I knew there was going to be a lot. After 1,000, I took a look at how many more there were to put on that list. It blew my frickin' mind. Over 1,000 different characters. Think about that number. That is a small town. That is an army. That is 100 times 10. 1,000. And there were a lot of characters I have never even heard about. And that is in part what I want to talk about. Not the 1,000 plus different characters, half of which we will probably never see even in cameos or even mentioned, but rather the ideas and possibilities that some of them bring to the table about the potential they have. So, let's start with Toaster. Yes, Toaster is an actual Cybertronian. He was introduced in IDW's More Than Meets the Eye portion of the story, and would have been super easy to miss because he was in his alt mode a toaster. His name is Toaster, he turns into a toaster, super original. Toaster himself may not be a developed character or have any bearing on the franchise at all. In fact, more than anything else, right now he exists probably more so as a gag than anything else. But let's take a closer look at his alt mode, the Toaster. Cybertronians that we are familiar with and see a lot of typically turn into cars, tanks, airplanes, some sort of vehicle. Sometimes they turn into guns. We have Blaster and Soundwave that turn into boomboxes. And now we have a Cybertronian that can turn into a toaster. A toaster. So this begs a question, what else can Cybertronians turn into? If they're not restricted to vehicles or weapons, Transformers the cinematic universe features little Cybertronians that turn into all sorts of domestic appliances, even laptops, cell phones, watches, TVs, and even stereo players. That opens up a whole new world of stories and plot twists. Unfortunately, this hasn't really been taken advantage of or explored too much, but with Hasbro's recent BotBots, I'm pretty optimistic about them bringing more of this concept into the Transformers media. From teeny tiny bots, let's go to small bots that combine. Now, the combination process itself is not new to the franchise, but there is something definitely worth noting. The Multiforce. Not only is it much smaller bots combining in pairs to create a more classical or regular-sized bot, they also combine to form Landcross, a Gestalt that is just as big as any combiner. Road Caesar has 3 regular-sized Cybertronians come together to form a combiner just as big as the rest. So what gives? Do they grow in size? Are they actually smaller? Do some extra components make up for the bulk, or is it some technical issues with animation, writing, and story, like the classical Transformers issue with sizes? Whatever the case may be, it definitely is nice to see that the door was open for combiner teams that can consist of just about any number of Cybertronians. Just as a side note, did you know that there was a combiner that consisted of 15 members? I'm really glad that idea was scrapped. Well, on the subject of combiners, let's brush up on Breast Force and the Seacons. To give you a bit of a backstory on what I'm talking about, the Breast Force is a team of elite Decepticon commandos hailing from the Death Zone. Not only are they deadly, cunning, powerful, and feared by all, they also have a deadly trick up their sleeve. they can combine into Leo Kaiser, one of the most powerful Cybertronians to ever come online. Leo Kaiser easily beat down Starsaber, Road Caesar, and Super God Jinrai at the same time. The events in the episode, when Leo Kaiser first appears, is actually what makes me scratch my head the most, and here's why. Leo Zach, the leader of the team, finally got fed up with Hellbat and wanted to terminate him, and called the 7th member of the Breast Force, Death Cobra, to come and take Hellbat's place. Hellbat, upon finding out, intercepted Death Cobra and tried to talk him out of joining the rest of the Breast Force. A fight ensued, and Death Cobra died from Hellbat accidentally shooting him. So here is what puzzles me a lot. Hellbat was clearly part of Leo Kaiser. Death Cobra was clearly also part of Leo Kaiser. That would make Leo Kaiser originally a 7-member combiner. Death Cobra died, but they could still form Leo Kaiser, Hellbat acting as one of the arms. So, would Death Cobra then be replacing Hellbat as the arm? What did Death Cobra originally transform into when they all came together? If Death Cobra was to replace Hellbat, does that mean that Death Cobra could transform into another part too? Can all of them replace each other as different parts of the combiner? Jaguar and Leo Zach turned into chest and hips of Leo Kaiser. Does that make them irreplaceable? In a way, it does indirectly draw back to Scramble City-style combiners, where the limbs can be switched between different combiners, but not in the way that an arm can become a leg or vice versa. And that is where the Seacons come in. And this specific thing is one of the 2 reasons why they are an extremely unique combiner team. They can all become whatever limbs and parts they want to become, sort of like Landfill from 2001's Car Robots. We can see this effect taking place in the Combiner Wars storyline in a much more prominent way. Any of the combiner limbs can turn into whatever limb they need to, so an arm can turn into a leg and vice versa. To then throw even more combination stuff on top of already established craziness, we then eventually get Ammonites, who are omni-combinational. So is this something we can expect in the future at some point? More Cybertronians becoming combiners, and then eventually reaching some sort of a level of technology that allows them to be just like Ammonites, omni-combinational. That would be very interesting to see. Let's take a short break, and we'll be back right after these messages. It's the morning. You just woke up, and you have to roll for initiative. That first roll will determine how the rest of your day goes. Do you keep failing the rolls every day? How many times did it feel like you rolled a 1? Well, no more. With D20 coffee, you don't need to worry. It will be like you rolled a 20 every time, every day. The people behind this product proudly stand for maximum quality and guaranteed satisfaction, while bringing you great variety at affordable prices. No matter what bean it is, or how you want it, you can rest assured it will be done to the highest standards and handled with the greatest of care. All you have to do is go to the shop section, select your desired brew, indicate whether you want whole bean or ground, and your quantity. Before you know it, you'll have a new fantastic way to improve your day. Be sure to check out their Facebook and Instagram pages. They love memes, and so do we. Don't forget to join their mailing list to get the latest scoops on upcoming sales, hottest coffee trends, and new arrivals. But wait, there's more! Apply the coupon code Papatron, and not only will you get a discount, you will also help support my channel. And remember, if it is not from D20 Brewers, it might as well be in the sewers. That's www.d20brewers.com. 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 D20brewers.com. And now, let's get back to the video. Let's continue the discussion with punch and counterpunch. While there are a lot of examples of Transformers that are extremely interesting in terms of their psychology, like Twinferno or Double Cross, IDW's Nightbeat, any Combiner, Animated Blitzwing, or Violent Jiger, I think Punch and Counterpunch have always been the best demonstration of how Transformers are very much capable of handling stories and characters with mental illnesses. IDW's first line of Transformers has gotten a growing cast of characters with mental issues, or quirks, as the series progressed, and developed deeper into the psychology of some of the other characters, which was a phenomenal move on their part in my opinion, showing yet another aspect of very real problems. Before moving on, I have to mention characters that have been reformatted, like Blaster into Twincast, Megatron into Galvatron, Soundwave into Sound Blaster to name a few, and bonded characters. They all have memories of their past selves. That is extremely interesting. How does that work? Where's the divide between the different iterations? Where's the divide between the old and the new? And then there are bonded characters like Headmasters, Target Masters, and Power Masters. Where does the organic mind begin and the Cybertronian mind start? Rarely two minds think alike. So what kind of issues would they be facing? How would they be making decisions? The possibilities are endless. These are gold mines of edgy and crazy stories. Now the next thing I want to talk about is Armada. Not the cartoon series. I'm talking about the character from Generation 1 1986 movie when Unicron is reformatting the wounded Decepticons. Unicron introduced Cyclonus and his Armada. So why Armada? Armada I think is a good icon to represent all the characters and colorations that never quite got developed due to story issues or technical difficulties. If you look at the wiki page for Armada, which I linked in the description below, you will see that not only have they drawn clones of Cyclonus, but also one that is weirdly colored as Dirge. All around, the whole idea has been a huge headache, leaving tons of room for interpretation every which way, whether Armada is a singular character or a group, whether the whole thing is just an error, or there's something in some manner that really exists. There are a bunch of these mistakes, happy coincidences, someone trying to sneak in an original character, a tool, a gag, whatever you want to call it, throughout the entire franchise. There's lots of them. On the flip side of this, there are characters that have been brought forth from those obscurities into the forefront, such as a secret shrine known as the Rainmakers, Acid Storm, Ion Storm, and Nova Storm. As time went on, we got to see more background characters gradually growing in popularity. Here's a small list just to give you an idea. Esmeralda, Deathsaurus's wife, Paddles, the sixth Dinobot, Primacron, the space monkey that made Unicron, Solon, Deathsaurus's adoptive son turned cyborg, Sunstorm, Nacelle, Bitstream, and Hotlink, even more Seekers, and then there are items and things that also have been, if not a little controversial, then very odd and interesting. Megatron's Purple Griffin. Will we ever know what was its purpose? I think it should be a gag joke that runs throughout the entire franchise. Somebody asks Megatron, hey, what is the point of this Purple Griffin? And then Megatron is like, if I have to explain this to you, then you're not worthy of being part of my army. Is it not obvious at all? If it's not obvious, I'm not explaining this. And then Megatron's perfect clone of Optimus Prime. I mean, who keeps a clone of their enemy in the closet? I have questions and concerns. I'm surprised Starscream didn't say anything when he first saw that Optimus Prime is in Megatron's closet. And then there's Hotshot's Jam, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. What is that green stuff? Why is he so much into it? I understand that this is a joke, but it's canon, so again, I have questions and concerns. What about Beast Wars Megatron's Judge wig? Where did that come from? How does he even know about these things? And as a final example, in my opinion, the most curious of them all, the Decepticon Matrix of Leadership. Originally, was a quintessential lie, but after the franchise has evolved and progressed as much as it has in the past 35 years, I have my doubts. Sixshot claimed to have it, so is he just trolling us? Sixshot and trolling, I never thought I would use these two words together. Whatever the case may be, it is always great to see the community get involved and Hasbro acknowledging its fan base by bringing these things into canonical existence. I do hope we end up seeing more obscure characters developed and learn more about them. Speaking of obscure characters, let's talk about Kakuryu, one of the 6 Dynaforce members from the Japanese Generation 1 Victory cartoon. And here's why I want to use Kakuryu to speak about the next topic: changing sides. Switching factions or outright abandoning one have always been an ever-growing concept in the franchise, finally taking full swing, at least to my knowledge, in IDW's Robots in Disguise. But before that, it hadn't quite been as explored. In Generation 1, there were suspicions, betrayals, mind control, offers to switch, but ultimately, everyone stayed where they were. Kakuryu, at least to my knowledge, was the first to actually turn Autobot, abandoning the Decepticons. It may have been done by an obscure character, but the door was finally swung open. There was a theory, as another example, that Great Shot, another character from Victory, was actually Sixshot turned Autobot, and only recently did we get the confirmation that that exactly was the case. As the franchise progressed, we saw more of this coming to the screen on comic book pages, creating more complex storylines with higher stakes. And speaking of factions, there are a lot in the franchise. What I loved seeing is how the different groups end up interacting with one another, the values, the morals, and ways they do things. I guess we have IDW's Robots in Disguise to thank for that, because in the story, factions were outright abandoned by many Cybertronians, or some making their own, which invited a lot of questions, like how much will their numbers diminish and how will they be affected? What kind of a power balance will we see? Were they right to abandon their factions given their reasons? And it goes much deeper the closer we look at this, because as an example, in Dreamwave, we see them splitting into mini-factions. This is an amazing opportunity to really test the characters for how strong they are, what their resolve is, where they stand, and create rather unique problems for them to handle. Now, before I wrap this video up, there's one more thing I feel like that I really should talk about, and that is fembots. As a kid, I loved watching Alita 1. I thought she was fantastic. Moonracer, Firestar, Chromia, and the others were amazing too. I loved the concept of them being partners, friends, or something more. I really want to see more, and Hasbro delivered. We got an entire plethora of amazing female characters, some of which became some of the most celebrated characters in the whole franchise. For example, Slipstream and Black Arachnia. There are a lot of characters, fan characters, that are pretty obscure that I would love to see more of, such as Glyph, Flame War, Lickety Split, Light Bright, so on and so forth. I'm very happy to see that Hasbro was making new fan characters and bringing them into the story, like Nautica, Velocity, the Mistress of Fire, and many others. And of course, there's just so much more to talk about, but I have to see if I can break it down into more manageable pieces, because again, there's just so much more to talk about. It really is amazing how much development the franchise has seen in 35 years. So, what obscure characters do you know? Which obscure characters are your favorites and why? Are there small-time or obscure characters you would like to see get more attention? Is there a concept you would like to see developed in the franchise? What kind of stories do you hope Hasbro would do in the future? Share in the comments below. If you liked my video, leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe, and smack that bell button. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Papatron, the concerned alien parent. Till all are fun.